When Cole first pulled into the empty cabin next door, I barely looked up from the cedar slab I was planing. The guy had one of those grins, easy, sharp, and a little too familiar. He gave away from his dusty Jeep, and I nodded back, hands still steady on the board. My name's Mike Granger. I'm 31. I run a woodworking business out of my shop here in Cooper Lake, a small town about an hour north of Missoula, Montana. The shop's 100 feet from our house, just across the gravel driveway. My wife, Sarah, used to joke that I spent more time with Maple and Walnut than I did with her. She wasn't entirely wrong. Sarah's 30, beautiful in a soft way. Green eyes, messy blonde hair she rarely bothers to comb if no one's coming over. She's not lazy, just peaceful. She grows things, makes our home smell like basil and fresh soil, throws dinner parties with homemade bread and lemon herb chicken, the kind of food that makes people stay late and talk slow. We've been married 7 years. Our rhythm was simple. I worked the wood, she worked the garden. It wasn't flashy, but it was ours. Then Cole showed up. He moved into the rental cabin next door early June. Said he was guiding summer hiking tours and wanted somewhere quiet to crash. Late 20s, tanned, that kind of longish hair that looks messy on purpose. The day after he moved in, he wandered over with 2 cold beers and a grin like he already knew Sarah would like him. Thought I'd say hey to the neighbors, he said, handing me one. Appreciate it. He didn't stay long that time, just enough to shake my hand, ask a few questions about the town, and mention he had a blog about wilderness survival. Later that evening, Sarah said, he's got this Jack London vibe going on. I shrugged. Just some guy renting the cabin. But the next day, she baked cookies and brought them over. Then I started seeing them talk more. Over the fence. By the herb garden. One time he was helping her move a stack of firewood. She didn't ask me to move. I wasn't worried. Sarah had always been a bit flirty. It was her way. I'd seen her giggle at the gas station clerk and put a hand on the shoulder of our UPS guy. Never meant anything. But there was something different with Cole. I noticed she started wearing that summer dress more often, the yellow one with the low back. She hadn't worn it in 2 summers. One afternoon, I came in early from the shop and found them laughing by the porch. She looked up quick and smiled, too bright. Cole was just telling me about this crazy hike up White Cliff Ridge, she said. Sounds steep. I muttered, heading to the kitchen. That night, I couldn't sleep. Nothing had happened. Not really. But I knew the balance had shifted. Just slightly. Just enough. And once it shifts, it never shifts back on its own. That's when I started watching. Not in a jealous way. More like a carpenter checking a level after the frame's already set. You just want to make sure it's still true. But deep down I knew. The house wasn't level anymore. Sarah never liked hiking before. She used to say it was just walking uphill for no reason. But 2 weeks after Cole moved in, she came into the shop one morning with a canteen and a backpack. I'm going to go try the trail up behind the lake. Cole says there's a spot with wild raspberries this time of year. I looked up from a dovetailed joint I'd been chiseling. Since when do you like hiking? She gave a shrug and a small smile. Figured I'd try something new. That became a theme. Trying something new. She bought boots, real ones, not just the cute kind for fall photos. She started watching YouTube videos about foraging and backcountry cooking. She'd sit on the couch next to me at night, laptop propped up on a pillow, headphones in. Sometimes I'd glance over and see Cole's face on the screen, talking to the camera like he was teaching the world how to live. You watching Cole again? I asked one night. She pulled one earbud out. Yeah, he's actually pretty smart. Did you know he built his own canoe out of birch and pitch? I didn't say anything, just went back to my book. But I watched her eyes. The way they lit up like they used to when she talked about her dahlias in spring. A couple days later, I came in from the shop and saw the 2 of them out by the garden fence. They were standing close, her arms folded in that casual way she did when she was comfortable. She laughed, too loud, too freely. I paused just inside the mudroom, watching through the screen door. Cole leaned in to say something, and she tucked her hair behind her ear like a teenager on a date. When I stepped out, the air shifted. Sarah straightened and looked my way. Hey babe, Cole was just showing me how to make fire starter kits from pine sap. Good to know, I said, walking past them. My voice sounded even to my ears, but I could feel the tension in my shoulders. That night, she brought up something strange over dinner. Do you ever think about doing something different? She asked, swirling her fork through a pile of mashed sweet potatoes. I looked up. Like what? I don't know. Selling the shop. Traveling. Starting over somewhere wild. I blinked. Since when do you want to start over? She shrugged, not looking at me. Just a thought. Sometimes it feels like we've been living the same day for 7 years. I didn't answer, just stared at the wall behind her and listened to the clock ticking on the mantel. I wasn't the jealous type. Never had been. But something about the way she looked at him, and the way she was starting to look past me, made my gut twist in a way I hadn't felt since my mother walked out when I was 15. That old, sinking feeling. I kept working. kept making beautiful things with my hands. But at night, I lay awake while she watched trail videos and whispered comments under her breath. She hadn't done anything wrong. Not yet. But that didn't matter. Because I knew. She was slipping out of the life we built. And I couldn't stop her. Not by holding on. So I started letting go. Quietly. Just enough to see what she'd do if I didn't stop her. It was a Saturday morning when she told me. Early August. Still cool enough that the windows were open, and I could hear the loons out on the lake. Sarah stood at the kitchen counter, cutting strawberries like it was any other day. I just finished my coffee and was heading toward the shop when she said it, soft, like it was nothing. Hey, can we talk for a sec? I turned. Her knife stopped mid-slice. She didn't look up. Sure. She wiped her hands on a towel, then turned to face me. There was a beat of silence, and I knew before she said anything, that something was about to break. I think I need a little space, she said. Just some time to clear my head. I didn't move. What kind of space? She licked her lips. Like a month. Just a break. Not a separation. I just need to think. Think about what? She looked down at the towel in her hands. About what I want. About who I am. I've been feeling stuck, Mike. And I don't want to keep pretending like everything's fine. I leaned against the doorway. My heart was pounding, but my voice came out steady. Where would you go? She hesitated just long enough to confirm what I already suspected. I asked Cole, she said. He said I could stay at the cabin for a while. Just until I sort things out. My stomach dropped, but I didn't show it. I nodded once. Okay. She blinked. Okay. Yeah, I said. You want a break? Take it. She stared at me like I'd just answered a different question than the one she asked. You're not upset? I didn't say that, I said. But I'm not going to fight you, Sarah. If you've already made up your mind, what's the point? Her eyes darted, searching my face for something. Anger, tears, maybe even permission. But I wasn't giving her any of it. I just stood there. I'm not leaving you, she added quickly. This isn't permanent. I just need to breathe. I'll still come by, check on the garden, maybe drop off dinner some nights if you're working late. I gave a small nod. Whatever you need. She stepped closer, like she expected me to hug her. I didn't move. Thank you, she said, placing her hand on my arm. I didn't flinch, didn't pull away, but I didn't return the gesture, either. She packed that afternoon. A duffel bag, a few toiletries, some books. She kissed my cheek before she left and said, Don't wait up. I'll call you in a couple days. I stood on the porch and watched her walk down the path toward Cole's cabin. Her hair swung lightly behind her, her boots crunching over gravel. She didn't look back. That was the moment something in me snapped. Not loudly, not violently. Just a quiet break. The kind you only hear when everything else is finally silent. She thought she was pressing pause. But I wasn't waiting. Not this time. I stood there until she disappeared into the trees. Then I went back inside and started making a list. By the time the sun set on her second night at Cole's, I'd already pulled the partnership contract out of the filing cabinet. It was a short document, bare bones, nothing fancy. We'd signed it at the county clerk's office when we first opened the shop. Sarah never cared much about the legal side of things, just liked the idea of being co-owner when it came time to host community fundraisers or give interviews for the local paper. She liked the title. She never lifted a finger in the shop, never touched the books, never took a business call. But her name was still on the documents. And I wasn't about to let her stroll back in, maybe months from now, and claim half of something she hadn't built. So I got to work. That Monday, I called up Tony DeLuca, owner of Ridge and Grain, a custom furniture place about 2 towns over. We'd met a couple times at trade shows. He was sharp, fair, and had been looking to expand. I didn't mention Sarah. Just told him I was exploring a merger, something small, maybe a joint workshop with shared resources. He was interested. Next, I drove out to the county courthouse, filed for an amendment to dissolve the joint ownership on paper. It wasn't a full divorce filing, just a business move. Sarah had never put in capital, never signed for the equipment loans. All I needed to do was document that she hadn't materially contributed. I had receipts. I had years of tax returns. I walked out with a temporary freeze on her name being used in any future business actions. No drama. No notice. Back in the shop, I moved her framed co-founder photo into the back office drawer. She hadn't even called me. Friends started asking where she was. At the diner, at the co-op, at church. I kept it vague. She's just doing her own thing for a while. Needed a breather. That seemed to satisfy most people. Most, but not all. My dad, retired mechanic, Vietnam vet, and the kind of man who never needed more than one sentence to make his point, cornered me at the hardware store. Where's Sarah? Taking a break, I said, scanning bolts. He narrowed his eyes. That mean what I think it means? Yeah, I said. She's staying next door. With him. He grunted, shook his head. You keeping the business? I nodded. Good, he said. Now don't be an idiot. Don't wait around for a woman who walked out easy. That was his version of a pep talk. Later that night, I took a whiskey out to the back porch. The house was too quiet. No humming from the kitchen. No sound of her watering the ferns on the windowsill. Just the buzz of summer bugs and the low croak of frogs down by the lake. I sat there a long time. Then I opened my laptop and started the paperwork to transfer all branding and account access to my name only. By the time I went to bed, I had a clean slate in motion. Sarah thought she was finding herself. What she didn't know was, so was I. And this time, I was building something just for me. Small towns don't keep secrets, not for long. By the second week of Sarah's retreat, the whispers had started. At the general store, I overheard two women by the freezer aisle. Isn't she married to that guy with the wood shop? Mem. Guess she's finding herself. In Cole's bed. They giggled like it wasn't a big deal, like it wasn't my life they were dissecting between coupons and frozen peas. I didn't say anything. Just paid for my nails and sandpaper and walked out. The thing is, I wasn't surprised. Not by the gossip, not by what they were saying. The only surprise was how quiet I felt about it all. Like whatever had been raw inside me had already been cut, stitched, and was halfway healed. I started showing up to town events again, solo. A fundraiser for the local library. A community board meeting. I even dropped off a few cutting boards I made for the firehouse raffle. People noticed. Some offered quick, polite sympathy. Others danced around the topic, waiting to see if I'd bring it up. I didn't. If they were hoping for a dramatic scene or a broken man, they were disappointed. At the Saturday farmers market, I ran into Jenna from the co-op. She was setting up a booth with homemade jams and crocheted dog sweaters. You're looking well, she said, smiling. Just keeping busy. She leaned in a little. Sarah's been around. I raised an eyebrow. Spotted her and Cole having wine by the docks Thursday night. Real cozy. I nodded once. Yeah, I heard. Jenna tilted her head, like she was trying to read me. You doing okay? Better than I thought I'd be. That seemed to satisfy her. Before I walked away, she added, if you ever want company for dinner or just to talk, I make a mean shepherd's pie. I smiled. Thanks. I'll keep that in mind. I didn't flirt back, but I didn't shut the door either. At home, the house felt different. Lighter. Like it had exhaled. No wet gardening gloves on the sink. No trail mix wrappers on the counter. No faint scent of lavender and lemon balm. Just clean, open air. I started cooking again. Real meals, steak and roasted potatoes, chili with cornbread, fresh fish from the lake. I'd play music while I worked, drink a beer with my dinner, and sleep a full night without wondering who was in her bed. One afternoon, I stood on the porch and watched a storm roll in. Thunder in the distance, sky turning charcoal. The wind carried laughter from the trail down by the lake. Two figures. One blonde, one tan and lean. They didn't see me. Didn't look back. I didn't wave. Didn't flinch. I just stepped back inside, locked the door behind me, and got back to work on a set of walnut chairs. The lake house wasn't a broken home anymore. It was just mine. And for the first time in a long while, that felt right. It was a Tuesday morning, just past 9. I was oiling a maple tabletop in the shop when I heard the front door open. Footsteps on the porch. Light, careful. Then her voice, too cheerful. Hey, stranger. I wiped my hands on a rag and stepped out to the doorway. Sarah stood there like she had never left. Same sundress she used to wear to town, a little wrinkled now. Hair pulled back in a braid. She smiled like we were picking up where we left off. Got back last night, she said. Figured I'd come by this morning. I leaned against the doorframe. Everything all right? She gave a breathy laugh, like this was supposed to be easy. Yeah, it was good, the time away. Clarifying. She took a step closer, clutching her tote bag like it was armor. Cole's fun. Really fun. But, not really built for the long haul. I didn't say anything. She kept going, like she'd rehearsed it. It was never about him, not really. I just needed to figure out where I stood. And I did. I waited. I miss this place, she said softly, her eyes sweeping over the porch, the trees, the lake beyond. Missed you. That one almost made me laugh. Almost. She looked at me again, this time more carefully. I was thinking we could start fresh. A new beginning. You want breakfast? I asked, stepping inside. Oh, sure. I pulled out a manila folder from the kitchen counter and dropped it on the table. Here's something better. She frowned, confused. What's this? Dissolution paperwork. I removed your name from the business. It's already filed with the county. I just need your signature here to finalize. Her smile vanished like fog burned off by sunlight. She opened the folder, skimmed the first page. Wait, you did this without even talking to me? You weren't here to talk. But this was our business, she said, voice rising. No, I corrected. This was always mine. You just liked the title. She stared at me, blinking hard. I kept my voice even. You took a break, Sarah. You moved into another man's cabin. You wanted space. I gave it to you. That was temporary. So is this offer, I said, tapping the folder. Sign it today, you get your clean break. No drama, no back and forth. She looked like she'd been slapped. I thought you'd be happy I came back, she whispered. I met her eyes. I think you thought I'd be waiting. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but no sound came out. We stood in silence for a moment. Finally, she picked up the pen beside the folder and signed. Her hand trembled slightly. When she was done, she pushed it back toward me. I guess this is who you are now, she said, voice brittle. I nodded. Yeah, this is who I always should have been. She left without another word. No hug. No apology. Just the quiet click of the screen door as she stepped back into the life she chose. And I didn't follow. She came back that evening. Didn't knock, just marched straight into the house like she still lived there. Her eyes were red, but her mouth was set hard. You're really gonna throw away 7 years like this, she snapped. I was on the couch, sanding the edge of a chair leg. I didn't look up right away. I'm not throwing away anything, I said. I'm cleaning up what you left behind. She stood there, arms folded, eyes burning. Don't do that. Don't act like I'm some villain. I just needed time. You didn't just need time, I said calmly. You needed Cole. That's not fair, she shot back. It wasn't about him. No? Because it sure looked like it. Sounded like it too, from what people in town have been saying. She took a step forward. So that's it. You're letting gossip and pride decide the rest of your life. No, I said. I'm letting your choices decide that. She threw her arms up. You're being cold, Mike. You've always been quiet. But this is different. You're acting like a stranger. I finally set the chair leg down and looked at her. No, I'm acting like a man who's finally done waiting for his wife to remember who he is. She flinched, just a little, but her face hardened. So what? You never made mistakes? You never checked out emotionally? You think running a shop all day and coming home smelling like sawdust counts as being a good husband? I leaned back. You're right. I wasn't perfect. But I stayed. I showed up. I didn't run off to find myself in someone else's bed. Her mouth opened, but I didn't let her speak. And don't try to rewrite it. You left, Sarah. You moved in with him. You made dinner with him. You laughed with him while I was here, wondering what the hell happened to us. Her hands curled into fists. I thought you'd understand. I thought you loved me enough to forgive one mistake. Forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting, and it sure as hell isn't the same as pretending like nothing happened. She stared at me, chest heaving, waiting for me to budge. I didn't. She finally snapped. You think you're some kind of hero now? Sitting here with your moral high ground, acting like you didn't drive me away. I shook my head slowly. I didn't drive you anywhere. You walked. Her voice cracked. This isn't over. No, I said, picking the chair leg back up, but it will be. She stood there a second longer, like she was hoping I'd take it all back. Then she turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind her so hard the wall trembled. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Sarah, this isn't over. You're not done with me. Not yet. I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I smiled to myself, tapped delete, and went back to work. I'd already made my peace. She just hadn't figured that out yet. She showed up one more time. A week later. This time she knocked. I opened the door and saw a different version of Sarah standing there. No makeup, no smile, no attitude. Just tired eyes and a folder clutched in her hands. Can we talk? She asked, quieter than before. I stepped aside, motioned toward the kitchen. She sat down without waiting for an invitation. I stayed standing. I've been thinking, she began. About everything. I didn't say anything. I shouldn't have walked away like that. I thought I was chasing something important. Freedom or clarity or whatever. But all I did was wreck what we had. Still, I said nothing. I wanted to see where she was taking this. She swallowed hard. I made mistakes. Big ones. But I'm asking you, not to take me back, but to reconsider the business stuff. I'm not asking for ownership again. Just some kind of mediation. Something fair. I sat down across from her. Fair. Yes. We were married. I gave you years of support, emotional support. This business was part of our life. I raised an eyebrow. Emotional support? She flushed. You know what I mean. No, I don't. You didn't build this shop. You didn't work the hours. You didn't cover payroll when a supplier delayed an order. You threw dinner parties and called yourself a partner. She looked down. You had a piece of paper with your name on it. That's all. I let you have that title because I thought we were building a life together. Turns out, I was just building. Alone. Sarah's voice trembled. I just want a second chance. Something. Anything. You had a second chance when you walked back in the first time, I said. You used it to test if I'd grovel. I didn't. And now you're back because Cole moved on and the town sees me as the one who stayed standing. She didn't deny it. I slid the offer across the table. I had a lawyer draw this up. It's a cash buyout. Modest. Enough to say you were here, but not enough to pretend you mattered in the books. She looked at it. This is all. It's more than I should give. She picked up the pen and stared at it for a long time. You really think this is the end of us? I know it is. After a pause, she signed. The scratch of pen on paper was the only sound in the room. She set the folder down, gently, like it was a child she was surrendering. Her voice was flat. He's with someone else now. Some yoga instructor from Bozeman. I know. She stood. People in town talk. They sure do. At the door, she turned back one last time. You used to love me. I still do, I said. Just not the way you think. She didn't have anything to say to that. She walked out slowly, her shadow long on the porch as the sun dipped behind the trees. That was the last time I saw the Sarah I knew, and the first time I realized I didn't miss her. Fall rolled in quietly. The lake turned steel gray. The trees along the ridge turned amber and rust. The air smelled like wood smoke and pine. My days were full again, not with worry or second-guessing, but with work. Solid, honest work. The shop thrived. After the paperwork was final, I locked in a deal with Tony at Ridge and Grain. We split the cost of new equipment and opened a shared showroom in town. Orders picked up, custom tables, live-edge benches, even a few corporate clients wanting high-end pieces for office lobbies. I hired 2 apprentices from the trade school in Missoula. Young guys, eager to learn. They reminded me of myself 10 years ago. Evenings were mine. I'd make dinner, real dinner, not just a sandwich over the sink, and sit on the back porch with a beer and the sound of the wind in the pines. Sometimes, I'd carve something small just for the hell of it. A keepsake box, a spoon, a little canoe for my nephew's birthday. I didn't see Sarah again for months. But Cooper Lake's not big, and eventually, it happened. Late February. I was coming out of the feed store with a bag of seed for the chickens when I spotted her at the roadside stand across the street. She was picking through jars of local honey, wearing a coat I'd never seen before, olive green, high collar, too dressy for this town. She saw me. For a second, she looked like she might turn away. But she didn't. She gave a small, hesitant wave. That old sheepish half-smile. I paused on the sidewalk, gave her a polite nod, and kept walking. No anger. No sadness. Just peace. That night, I lit a fire in the hearth and sat with an old photo album, one from the early years. Our wedding. The first harvest from her garden. The shop's grand opening. I didn't cry. Didn't feel regret. Those years were real. They just weren't built to last. Like a table made from soft pine, pretty at first, but never meant to bear weight. What I had now was different. Sturdy. Sometimes people in town would still ask, "You seeing anyone yet?" I'd just smile. Not yet. I wasn't in a rush. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like something was missing. The house was quiet, but not lonely. The kind of quiet you earn after noise. The kind of peace that feels like a reward. I was no longer someone's afterthought or fallback. I didn't need to be someone's maybe. I was mine. And every night when I locked up the shop and turned off the lights, I felt something settle in my chest. Not pride exactly, not even relief. Just stillness. And that was enough.